Welcome everyone to another episode of Kiwi Talks. I have in the studio with me the Chief Executive of Tourism for the Waikato in Hamilton, yeah?
Absolutely, Hamilton and Waikato.
Yeah, it's the other way around, isn't it? You can say it either way.
We can say it either way. Tourism Waikato is fine.
Yeah. So I want to know how you ended up here. Was this always the dream to do this?
No, absolutely not. I think, look, each of us, I mean, you know, when you're kids, some kids grow up and they'll go, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a pilot. I never had a dream. I always thought that I just love dealing with people. People's fun. I love joking around a bit. So I've had a really different progression to probably most people who have gone into tourism. I came in through a cadetship when I left high school. Yeah. And then I worked at a council, actually, the first regional council that was set up back in a long time ago. So I was up in Northland, and then I stayed in local government for probably about 10 years in Northland, Auckland. Went overseas, as we all do, decided to go do my OE. Did a bit of recruitment, worked in investment banking, real crazy different sorts of career paths. And then came back and obviously got back into communications and marketing again, which is kind of what I'd done my training in. Right. And was in a council again, looking after Auckland regional parks, which was great fun. And then went back to Whangarei, worked at a council again, and decided actually they're doing lots of council stuff. What else could I be doing? But it was cool fun. And in that time, got to do things like work on the Christchurch earthquake. So I was trained in national emergency response, is probably a good way to put it back then. We were trained for oil spill responses. We had a major, obviously, New Zealand's only oil refinery, Marsden Point, is based in Northland. Used to do a lot of public information emergency response for oil spills, chemical spills, ships that ran aground, lots of maritime disasters that kind of happened in Northland. And then we moved into, we also get a lot of tropical cyclones come into Northland. Northland is prone to flooding. So again, moved into the civil defence space and doing public information around natural disasters. So did that for a few years in Northland, loved it. And then unfortunately we had a spate of disasters. So obviously Christchurch earthquake was our biggest natural disaster in our lifetime anyway. So we were deployed down there and I managed the public information with a team of lots of other people who helped from around the country to try and get Christchurch back on its feet during the earthquake response. So really changed my outlook on life after working in Christchurch and decided actually I needed to do something different. And I was approached to come to Hamilton.
Who approached you?
Hamilton City Council did. So they were going through a lot of change. Obviously, they had decided that the V8s weren't for them. They had a new mayor Julie Hardacre, obviously came in. There was a new management team and they wanted me to come down and join the management team. So obviously went through a interview process, decided actually this city looks quite cool. I mean, it wasn't really a city I thought I would come and live in. I used to come down here quite a bit. A lot of my friends went to uni here, as most Northlanders do. They used to, have all of their 21st on the Waipa Delta, and we used to party on Hood Street and then walk along and eat at McDonald's just before it got closed down on Claudelands, party at the Riv. So it was quite a cool city to me anyway. So to come back here later in life, there was just lots going on. It had great growth opportunities. Obviously Hamilton Gardens was booming, and it was just a city I felt was on the move. So, and to come here and do some change and be part of reshaping a city was something that really excited me. So went to Hamilton City Council, worked there for 5 years as GM Customer Relationships, so looked after the city events. We had the Hamilton 150th birthday. We got to do some pretty cool stuff. We had the river plan, we had the CBD transformation plan, and launch some really cool customer improvements really around the customer service for council, around the digital space, and loved it, really loved Hamilton. So our 2-year plan of coming to Hamilton for 2 years has now gone into 8 years.
Wow.
Then after that went to Dairy NZ, did some consulting around improving the public engagement and perception of the dairy industry. It's always hard because I come originally from a farming background, and for us, look, dairy is a key part of what makes New Zealand today.
I agree.
So look, it was a really interesting project to try, and we had the bobby calf crisis, unfortunately, during that as well. So some of my crisis management skills came in handy. And then I was approached to go and actually do an acting role at Tourism Waikato.
Like what a stage? Film?
I wish it was a stage. No, so the CEO, Kerry Gilter, had set up Tourism Waikato back in the day.
Yeah.
And she had decided to leave, so they were looking for someone just to act as CEO until they recruited the permanent position. And I said, well, actually, I'd be interested in the permanent role. And that's my story. So 4 years now, I've been at Hamilton and Waikato Tourism, and we're having a ball. It's a fantastic region, and you always think you know your region, but now I feel like I know it even more because there's always something going on. And in tourism, we really do have to know what is happening in our destination that we can start to tell our stories about.
Yeah. So how do you stay up with everything that's going on?
I go to a lot of events, as many people see on my social media channels.
Oh, I've seen you at two. You spoke at Seed Waikato.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And I wanted to come talk to you afterwards, but I got held up talking to someone else. And then I saw you at Grow Waikato last year.
Oh, right, great.
Yeah, and I ended up having to leave early, so I didn't get to talk to you again. So I was like, oh man, I just need to get this guy on here.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. So again, how we keep up with it is literally, if people want to market or tell anything about what's going on in our region, then they normally come to us, which is great. And to me, no matter whether people want to visit here, it's also cool because if they have a great tourism experience or they come here for the weekend or for a major event and they have a ball, they look favourably on us as a region. And so to me, it actually helps us with people who want to move here to live. It helps with people who want to invest, and it helps for students that actually want to study here. Because if we always promote that there's always lots of stuff going on here, which there really is every day in Hamilton and Waikato, there's something going on, then it actually makes our residents feel proud too. So a lot of people reach out to us as well as we scout around to always find out what's going on. Obviously, we work in a number of communities because we cover 6 districts in Hamilton City. So
it's a big region.
We have quite a big region. But again, it's a region where we're being discovered is probably a nice way of saying it.
I agree. Yeah.
And I think Hamilton particularly has had a pretty bad rap, as we all know.
Oh, man, I'm from Auckland, and when I said I wanted to move here, I got so much crap from a lot of people for moving here. So, I think that is slowly going away, though.
It is slowly changing, and the change is that more people who are not originally from Hamilton are living here now.
Yeah.
And we are saying what a great lifestyle we have. You can have a great career here. You can study at some of the world's best universities. You've got some amazing training institutions, and we've got some big headquarters now for a lot of companies here. So good schools, great lifestyle. Look, we're flat, so it's easy to cycle around. We've got that great big honking river going down through the middle of our city. And we have a great hospo scene. We have amazing events. Our arts community is thriving here. We're a very diverse community. That's also what I love about it. You know, you go to some cities and it's really hard to find other cultures. Whereas here, look, Māori is really strong as well. You know, we're the home of the kingitanga. But also, we have, some huge refugee communities that have established, and migrant communities have established themselves here in Hamilton. So that just gives us a bit more of an interest factor. So there's always something, and we've always been a bit cheeky about it, which I think is cool. And we're not afraid to stand up, which I think is something Hamilton's Tonians, and particularly the wider Waikato, should be proud of. Whether it be the Springbok Tour in 81, we were prepared to, take a stand against apartheid, and somewhere else around the world, whether it be sending our originally people going off for war, and different wars have all come from the Waikato. They're prepared to stand up for people's rights, whether it be gender equality, whether it be our LGBTQT community, where people are prepared to, stand and be proud about it, and right through the climate change movements that we're actually seeing now as well. Our city is not shying away from actually saying, hey, we're prepared to have a voice. We are the 4th biggest city, and I think, we need to grow a bit more and feel like actually we are quite an important city here, because we're not classed as a regional city anymore. We're a major metro. But the good thing about it is we still have the trappings of being a cool village where everyone kind of knows each other, everyone's prepared to help each other out. And we're a very well-connected community and a giving community. So I could go on and on.
No, well, it's good. It's good. It makes my job easier. But in terms of, so I take it you work in conjunction a lot with Tourism New Zealand.
Yes, so how it all works is Tourism New Zealand are our international marketing agency. So they own the 100% Pure brand.
Yeah.
They're actually been set up under legislation, so they're a government agency. They don't play in the domestic space. So they're all about international profile and attracting international visitors from key markets here.
Right, so do you focus more on the domestic side?
We focus on both.
Okay.
Yes. So we partner with Tourism New Zealand offshore, so I wouldn't step into a market in China or in the US without about actually partnering with Tourism New Zealand. They're what I would call our gateway agency into those countries. But we also partner with airlines. We work with Air New Zealand quite a lot into some of the new routes. New York is starting in October, direct Auckland to New York, so that's quite exciting for us. So again, partner with airlines, with Tourism New Zealand in our key markets to promote the Waikato. But also we also work together with our neighbours. So when we go offshore, we don't just do it alone. We partner with Rotorua, Taupo, Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, Taranaki, Ruapehu. It's quite a big group of us, Tairāwhiti, Gisborne, right down to Hawke's Bay. And we're called the Central North Island Alliance. So again, we club together.
Okay, that's good.
Because as a visitor, you don't think, oh, I must go to this district and I must visit to this town. It's more around attractions. When we go travelling, we always think, well, we must go and see, if you go to Italy, the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I want to go to the Colosseum in Roma. So you don't think as in districts or towns or belt or borders. You think more about the places you want to see. So for us, the Central North Island has it all. We have the beautiful white sand golden beaches of Coromandel and Bay of Plenty, right through to the mountains and the snow alpine experiences of Ruapehu and Taupo. We have the lakes, we have geothermal activity, and then you come across to the Waikato. We've got the home of Hobbiton and Waitomo Caves, Hamilton Gardens, and then the wild west coast with the beautiful place of Raglan. So again, we've actually got a lot to offer a visitor, and we're quite a strong visitor proposition versus South, because South has always been strong in the international market. Queenstown,
totally.
It's all about Queenstown and the Alps. And look, Rotorua has been very strong for us too, but they're transitioning. They've traditionally been the home of Māori tourism, and that's still a key part of their proposition, but they also want to be the adventure capital for us, because they've got some pretty cool things going on in Rotorua.
Yeah, they do.
So clubbing together just helps when we go offshore.
So did you have any part to play when Stephen Colbert came here?
No, I would love to say that I did. But no, that was definitely a Tourism New Zealand initiative.
Okay, so you
obviously started with Jacinda. You would have seen that she was on the Late Show a couple of times. Look, he was a bit of a fanboy of New Zealand, and he absolutely adores The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So again, there was some work where Tourism New Zealand contacted Russell Alexander, who's the head of Hobbiton, and said, hey, our Prime Minister's about to go onto the Late Show. He absolutely is a huge Lord of the Rings and Hobbit fan. What can we do? And so Russell organised a Hobbiton citizenship certificate, which got sent over. So Jacinda got to present it to them. And that's how the conversation started. It was about, you must come to New Zealand. For us, look, using influencers is really important, because it's far more powerful for me, even domestically, or for someone internationally. If they come here and they just talk up our region and say what a great time they have, that is gold. Because again, you could buy advertising, which isn't always right, or you can have someone come here and experience it for themselves and tell it through their eyes and in their words. And something like Stephen Colbert coming here was great for us in the North American market. Again, we work with a lot of influencers, and we have some pretty quirky campaigns. I don't know if people remember Get New Zealand on the Map. That was another Tourism New Zealand initiative. New CEO, Stephen England Hall, sitting in, I don't know where he was, Starbucks somewhere, looked at this world map and went, wait a minute, New Zealand's not on there. Now, Stephen's worked overseas for many years, and he'd actually started to look at a lot of the maps that he had accumulated and went, New Zealand doesn't even feature a lot of these maps. So it started this bit of a viral campaign. Obviously, Rhys Darby came on board, so did Jacinda. Again, they will give up their time free to have a bit of a poke the bear and have a bit of fun with the world, to say, hey, Kiwis, if you see a map that doesn't have New Zealand, snap a shot and send it to us. So it was right through the United Nations in New York. The headquarters has this like blob, which doesn't really look like New Zealand, attached to Australia. So again, there were global maps. So I think for us, anything that we can try and create some sort of interest around who we are as a country. And it doesn't have to always be about tourism, because for us as a country, we say we're at the bottom of the world, we're a bit of an incubation nation and we want to punch above our weight. And we do have some world-class stuff. But I think sometimes as Kiwis, we just need to realise we are still a minnow in this big giant place called the world. To create any sort of interest factor is always good. And look, and tourism does have an opportunity to do that.
But did tourism 100%, well, Tourism New Zealand, did they contact you at all and tell you their plan, or was it hearsay that you found about
No,
about it later?
so we did know it was happening. We
Okay.
we get a lot of visits here all the time. We have to always sign what we call NDAs, non-disclosure agreements,
Right.
which is always hard
Of course.
because people are always probing and saying, "Hey, is there a chance? You know, can
You
I
seem
see?"
like the type of person that wouldn't want to keep a secret either.
It's pretty hard, but look, we do respect NDAs
Yeah.
for us because there is some commercial sensitivity, and the other times are particularly for what we call high-profile celebrities or VIPs. If people knew where they were, then unfortunately it does put themselves at risk. We
Yeah.
do get a lot of real fanatics that actually follow these people. So even for us, look, we weren't part of his visit at all. It was very much he was there during, I think, a normal standard Hobbiton day. Most people would not have known, and he did his little film skit there and loved it. And then obviously he went on to visit other parts of our country.
Oh, it's a brilliant piece.
It is a brilliant piece.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the amount of money that was spent on that was well worth it, I feel. Do you get statistics and like numbers of who's travelling into the country and tourism spots? And
Yeah, we do. So
Yeah.
obviously we get around 3.8 million international visitors coming into the country. So that's our international arrivals. As we know, with things like coronavirus, we've had the Whakaari White Island tragedy and also the terror attack in Christchurch. We have seen obviously a lot of softening in some of our visitor arrivals. It was probably going to happen anyway. I think we're seeing a lot of countries going into recession. You know, the UK is going through Brexit. The US market, unfortunately, is quite unsettled going into presidential elections again. So what we will see anyway is naturally our international arrivals will drop because travel is especially travel to New Zealand, is a bit of a bucket list destination for a lot of people. We are at the bottom of the world. So for them, it is flying from, you know, as we all know, that we've done it before when we go up to Europe or into the US. We're spending 12 to 14 hours going to the US and then potentially another flight. And it's, you know, 24 hours to get up to UK and Europe. So,
Yeah.
So for most of those visitors coming to us, it is seen as like a once in a lifetime opportunity to come to our country. So what we have seen is definitely a softening in stats, but for us as a region, look, we're still strong. We're still one of the number one sectors here in the Waikato. We're bringing in 1.558 billion into the region, which is fantastic. But domestic is our big driver. Domestic bringing 1.2 billion into our region.
Oh, really? I didn't realise it was that much.
No, it's huge. So 75% of our market is domestic.
So what is the biggest tourism attraction within the Waikato?
Well, we have three that I would say are our biggest.
Yeah.
Hamilton Gardens is the number one for the city. You know,
Okay.
they're bringing in around 1 million visitors a year. A lot of it is us. You know, we return as locals. We might go to Gourmet in the Gardens. I was there last night for Hamilton Gardens Arts Festival. So
I
as
went there
locals,
recently, yeah, for the Surrealist
oh,
Garden.
the Surrealist Garden, of course,
Yeah.
that is fantastic. So
Yeah.
again, we have a lot of those visitor counts. We have a lot of repeats, but we do get a lot of international visitors and domestic visitors coming here. And then number 2 and 3, again, they're not in any order. They're just our top 3. Hobbiton, obviously Hobbiton movie set. There was research done probably about 6 years ago that said I think 1 in 6 international travellers that arrive here, or 1 in 8, they have chosen to come to New Zealand based on Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, and they want to do one of their experiences, whether it be going to Weta workshops in Wellington, but traditionally everyone wants to go to the home, which is Hobbiton movie set in Matamata. And then we have Waitomo. Waitomo Caves, obviously the glowworm caves, Ruakuri with the limestone caves, and Aranui and all the other cave experiences there are a huge visitor draw for us as well, because again it's one of the few places, and probably the only place in New Zealand anyway, to see glowworms underground, as well as in the world. It's quite rare, but plenty of limestone caves experiences, plenty of blackwater rafting experiences, but
Yep.
the glowworms are really our unique proposition, and it's probably our oldest tourism operation. Been going for around 120 to 150 years now. They've been hosting people in the caves, obviously not as slick as you see it today. To go down and see the glowworms potentially would take people nearly a whole day.
Yeah.
And they'd have to travel and stay at the Waitomo Hotel. So again, very different experience to what we see today.
Those 3 tourist attractions are in completely different locations from each other. So do you work with the regional council in terms of like bus transportation and how to get people around to these different places? Do people mostly travel via bus, or do they hire cars?
So what we have is definitely some of our attractions traditionally have been what we call group travel, which use coach. So there are a lot of bus tours, Stray,
Yeah.
Kiwi Experience, APT, Pacific Tourways. There's lots of big companies coming into our region every day. Coach travel is probably still a big significant part of our market, but we've definitely seen a shift into what we call call FIT, friend independence. These people hiring cars or camper vans, they're staying longer in our region, they're spending more, and that's actually a growing market for us. Always has been. So New Zealanders are what we call FITs because they don't normally come on a coach tour to go to Waitomo, they'll drive there. So again, 75% of our market here is domestic, so a big drive market. But then we do have still the coach travel. But again, we are seeing a change. With regards to your question about working with the regional council, obviously we work with a lot of agencies. New Zealand NZTA, the New Zealand Transport Agency, are quite a key one for us. They run the state highway network. All of our attractions are pretty much near or right beside a state highway. So again, good road access is always important. Public transport is hard, particularly if you want to go across our region. Look, we have a good bus transport network that goes from our towns that comes into Hamilton Transport Centre and obviously is our hub. Then you jump on another bus to go somewhere else. But we don't have anything that goes across the region. So you can't go from Waitomo to Matamata. You can't go from Te Kuiti up to Coromandel. You pretty much have to all come through Hamilton to transfer to a different service. So again, those bus services are provided for our locals, for our residents. For tourism and visitors, we're working with lots of other different companies to offer different sorts of transport options. So,
would you like to see like some type of rail network in the future?
I would love. Well, look, we're excited. We've got rail coming to Hamilton. So hats off to the regional Land Transport Committee, Waikato Regional Council, Hamilton City, who have all backed it.
It would have been a mission to get that off the ground, I'd imagine, with all the different parties involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they've done a great job. Look, it's definitely going to launch in June. It'll be a commuter service. So again, commuters are great. We do have a lot of people who live in Hamilton who work in Auckland and vice versa, people who live in South Auckland who work here. So I think the commuter service will work. My dream is that we have midday services, and off-peak is going to be big for us because leisure will drive that. And look, we've seen that, we talked a little bit at the beginning about Hamilton Airport. Hamilton Airport has traditionally been a business airport.
I was going to ask you about this in terms of whether international flights would ever come back to Hamilton.
So it's still an international port. I think people are probably a little bit surprised. They think because we don't have international airlines with scheduled services coming into Hamilton, that
we did though at one point.
We did. That's right. We had Pacific Blue, we had Freedom Air, and also there has been some. There was Virgin, I think, came in for a while as well.
Yeah.
So look, Hamilton and Palmerston North were both international ports that were running what we call the budget airlines that would cross the Tasman, do those cheap, $399 or $599 flights to the Gold Coast. Worked really, really well, but obviously conditions changed and it's really competitive crossing the Tasman. So the big airlines, Qantas obviously, and definitely Air New Zealand, took a bit of an exception to all these cheap airlines running cheap airfares across the Tasman and decided to take them head on by creating their own budget airline, which is where you saw the demise pretty much of what we see today of our budget airlines across the Tasman. However, conditions may change. Look, I think as a traveller, even though we would love to grab a deal, it also has to be appealing for the Australian market to come to Hamilton as well if we're to bring back international, especially across the Tasman, which I think they will. But the way our travel patterns are changing, it is the Tasman, and look, there's some far more better educated people on the aviation industry than me, but we always say in the industry that it is one of the most competitive airline routes in the world is actually across the Tasman. The other one is across the English Channel. We have a saturation of airlines that they fly over it, and with that means that it's really hard to actually, based on margins and seats, to actually fill those flights all the time because we have such a choice. It used to be bigger when we had Emirates, so that was a good example where we had 3 A380s, which were the big double-decker planes flying across the Tasman every day, and they would literally undercut because they needed to fill those big planes. But now Emirates don't. Emirates actually fly direct. So again, most passengers are changing market demand. We are prepared to sit on a plane, as we'll soon see with the New York route, for up to 16 hours to get to our destination without any transiting. So I think market is demanding that we actually prefer long-haul flights. We want to get quicker to our destinations rather than spend longer in transit or doing short hops. And so for us, the reason why I'm talking about this is because if the market demands long-haul travel, then potentially that may be the future for Hamilton. And it might be that we might end up again with budget airlines. That would be great. Where actually, anywhere south of pretty much the Harbour Bridge, people will be prepared to travel. We'll have an expressway as of next year, end of 2021. That'll be 4-lane between Auckland and Hamilton. So that way people can actually travel quicker south, jump on a flight out of Hamilton Airport and potentially wake up in Beijing or Singapore. So
it could be on the cards.
It could be. I'm not saying it is.
It is,
but I'm just looking at the market and future travel trends. And I think New Zealanders, most of the world are already getting used to travelling, 12 plus hours on a plane without stopping. Kiwis, we've always done the 12 plus, and then we would, do a hop somewhere in between if we're carrying on to Europe. But I think with the fuel efficiency of airlines, with the speed of technology and how they're actually improving the aviation industry, people are prepared to travel further longer. And I think that could be, I'm not saying it would be, but it could be the future for Hamilton.
Because I'd imagine that it would take the pressure off Auckland Airport to an extent, because, Auckland has a lot of congestion.
It does have a lot of congestion.
Yes, yeah, and you don't even have a rail network that goes from here or anywhere that goes to the airport.
No.
So, I see it on Facebook all the time with people commenting saying, when are we getting international flights or anything like that? Because I think even with domestic flights, I think we really only go to Palmerston North, Wellington and Christchurch.
Correct, yeah. So they are our 3 fly markets. They do have high loads,
Queenstown on the cards?
I don't know. That's completely up to you, New Zealand. They are our only national airline that are flying into Hamilton
Monopoly.
right now. So look, for them, I think, I really think that the hop and stop, I call it. So at the moment, a lot of our Wellington flights stop in Palmerston North for 20 minutes. You sit on the tarmac. If you're carrying on to Wellington, people are getting off for Palmy, get off, Wellingtonian traffic jump on, and then literally we carry on to Wellington. So I think, look, a hop and stop type thing for Hamilton would be good. I think that could be the future for regional flights. So literally you could jump on in Auckland, which is one of our biggest gripes right now as a business community. We want to be able to board or check in at Hamilton Airport to be able to fly even across the Tasman or anywhere internationally, but we have to drive to Auckland to get an international flight. So I think not only...
hate it.
Yeah, all of us are over that drive.
Yeah.
And sorry, team, what's going to happen is, unfortunately, NZTA, and once they've finished the 6 laning all the way down to Papakura, the next 6 laning project starts, which is they reckon will take a lot longer, and that'll take the 6 lanes through to south of Drury to the base of the Bombay. So we thought we were over the roadworks on that motorway. More is coming.
Oh, no.
So, again, it just drives the need for us to want to use rail because, look, I would rather sit on the train for 2 hours plus even to get into Britomart. With a train, you can still obviously carry on working, you can sleep, you can read your book. You don't have to be as concentrated on driving or stopping and starting in congestion for pretty much 2 hours. So I think that's going to be a huge change and shift. But look, flights, I think, New Zealanders are flying more. That's why Air New Zealand and that's why Jetstar originally, we're in our regions as well, because more and more Kiwis are deciding to fly and it is more affordable. And I think...
and because we don't have a really... lucrative or a rail network of any kind, really. You've only limited really to Auckland and Wellington, like the major cities.
That's right.
So we're, a car reliable type of country.
We're definitely car reliant.
Yeah, if you go overseas, public transport is in a completely different league to here.
It is.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's been driven by population. We have always been a small country. But if you look back to our history, we've had a great rail network.
We did.
My dad used to work for New Zealand Railways Corporation, used to be called when it became incorporated. Originally it was a government agency, and we used to travel the country by rail. We had regional networks that went through up to Whangarei, they went through to Tauranga, they went to Gisborne, they went to Rotorua, and even in the South Island, we used to have the Southerner that used to go pretty much from Christchurch and Dunedin down to Invercargill. So we now have what we call scenic rail journeys, the Transalpine, the Northern Explorer, which does the North Island, and the Coastal Pacific. But the goal is, and what we're starting to see, is that hopefully we bring back a rail network. The population is growing. People are wanting to travel by rail. And again, it's not just going to be New Zealanders travelling by rail. Our visitors are demanding to travel by rail. And it's a far more sustainable travel option than having 55 cars driving down a motorway by getting all of them onto rail. It's a far more sustainable with regards to freight movement and also definitely for passenger movement. So.
Well, I think one of the things as well is, particularly with the Upper North Island, you've got a lot of the cities and towns within close proximity with each other. Like if you think of Australia, all the cities and everything are quite isolated, right?
They're very spread out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So just that, Golden Triangle is about 50% of the population.
Correct. So up in North Island, yes, we do hold 50% of the population. It is the place people want to live.
Yeah.
It's where the work is. It's where our two major ports are. It's where our major international airport. So it's a desirable region to be in right now. And I think so for us, look, we do have enough population to at least provide better connectivity between our three main centres. People always go on that, Hamilton will become the suburb of Auckland. We will just always be the second city. I think there is enough space and place for us to actually still have a place in the world. We don't want to be just a burb of Auckland. We are a city still steeped in tradition and in our core sectors. So I think it's great.
Do you think that the inland port that Tainui are working on will play a major effect on possibly, bringing rail here, like say to the airport, or possibly have a part in more flights coming here? Do you think that could play a part? I mean, there's supposed to be like 10,000 jobs or something created from this
that's
thing.
right. Look, I think, obviously you'll be talking soon to Tainui, which is great to hear a bit more about the Ruakura Inland Port. Look, definitely freight makes a very big part of any sort of transport connectivity, whether it be a flight or whether it be rail. So again, it needs to be an even split because you actually make more money out of freight. So getting more freight movement or cargo, transiting and being processed here in the Waikato and then obviously being moved around the country by rail and definitely by air is a desirable position. And that will happen because again, we're definitely seeing that with Northgate, which is obviously the Auckland ports of Auckland inland port development with main freight being out there, Porters and Fonterra, obviously they have their own rail siding because they know that actually people want to move their freight. So again, we process and take all the containers of goods from both ports, whether it be Auckland in the north and for ports of Tauranga and Ruakura, they get processed here and then literally they get shipped to the market, whether it be through rail or whether it be through planes. But at the end of the day, we will become what I would call a logistics hub.
That's going to be the natural evolution.
Overall goal for us as a region. And I think we're naturally there because of the geography. We are between ports of Auckland and ports of Tauranga, so we're in a great position anyway. So I think that's naturally going to see the demand for the ports to grow.
I think one of the best things about Hamilton, I know some people don't like this, but it's quite central to a lot of places.
It is.
But people are like, what? That's a terrible thing to say because you're telling people that it's good to leave because you can go to all these
That's
places.
right. People used to always say that to me too when I moved here. But I think for us, I mean, again, once you live here, but we come home. So it means that it's actually central for us to go to Rotorua or to go to Mount Maunganui or shoot out to Raglan or go to Auckland.
Yeah.
But, we've got, I always say, even though sometimes if we want to go and see a big concert in Auckland, great. Well, we get to drive up and then we get to drive home. So we get to not have to pay the exorbitant fees of staying in Auckland or living in Auckland. We get to come back to our hometown. And I think that just makes it a far more pleasant experience for us for lots of events, and also we get to see the best of those cities without having to live in them. So that's a nice way of putting it.
I agree. I want to go back to the Hamilton Gardens just for a bit.
Yeah.
Are you for a fee being charged to go there?
Look, we were really clear because council did propose to obviously put a charge for the entry into the enclosed gardens, which are all the main tourism attractions.
Yeah.
Look, we were really clear. Great to include a charge. I think if you look at other destinations around the world, and for those Hamiltonians who do travel, we do realise we have a one of a kind, unique, world-class destination. No other country in the world has anything like Hamilton Gardens. So it is really special. I think if we do put a charge on it, I've always said we need to create more activity in there. There needs to be some added value. But again, a charge could generate revenue to create more activity. So when you go into the Italian garden, maybe there is always an opera singer in there, or maybe they're serving gelato in summer. So again, add value to the visitor experience, because otherwise, by putting a charge on what we have now, pretty much is like putting a charge on an empty theatre. The gardens are a theatre platform, and so you wouldn't normally go pay a ticket to go into a theatre and just look at an empty stage. So to me, it's a beautiful stage and platform, but we could really extract some great value by putting in some amazing experiences, regular tours that go in there in different languages, maybe a food tour that goes through the gardens where you experience stuff. People would pay really good money to actually have that extra bit of added value. And interpretation's key, even just general tours. They do offer tours there, they are set times, but again, if everyone paid, they would actually attend the tour because you feel like, well, I need to know about these gardens. So you do see people walking through the gardens just looking lost. Again, what does this
big.
mean? It is really big. But so again, to have, a charge would allow us to actually what I call extract higher value customers in there, and also people would pay for those experiences. You could have lots of added value experiences there.
And you can invest back into the gardens, pretty much.
That would be the goal, is literally we could close the loop. So as you can see, you've talked, the gardens are getting big. Dr. Peter Sugel has had an amazing vision for those gardens, and he has delivered an exceptional gift to the city. And we've had a lot of philanthropy, and the Friends of the Gardens have all helped grow those gardens through sponsorship and funding, but we would really need to invest a lot now in maintenance. We still want it to look like a world-class garden, and we want to have enough staff to be able to keep that place humming and buzzing and looking in pristine conditions. So again, a charge would definitely help fund the maintenance, which would be great.
I think Paula's coming on here again at some point, so I might have to ask her.
Great.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to ask is in regards to Hobbiton, because there's I know with some of my Auckland friends, they feel that Hobbiton is too expensive, but something occurred to me that I would imagine it would be quite costly to maintain that place. And is there a fee that they have to pay to Warner Brothers for the licensing? Yeah. And I'd imagine it would be a hefty fee too, for just the...
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's what people forget.
Yeah. Thanks for that. You've actually answered my question. I think it's not just a Hobbiton thing or an Auckland thing. It's actually a New Zealand thing. We're a nation that's traditionally been built on getting a good deal.
Yeah.
And so any sort of charge for Kiwis, everyone just gets their back up. And I feel for Hobbiton because, look, I think it's sitting around $80 now for a Hobbiton tour experience.
Yeah, I think I went in October. That was the first time I went. And I think it was $80 or $100. I can't remember what I did. But my partner... she's not into Lord of the Rings or anything, doesn't know anything about it, but she came along and she really enjoyed it, which says a lot. You don't have to like Lord of the Rings or anything to enjoy it.
Absolutely. And that's what people don't realise about Hobbiton, Kiwis particularly, because most of international visitors just go there because they want to go there. They've heard so much about it. They know, and it's an amazing experience. Some of them are definitely what I would call Lord of the Rings fanatics. They know the words, the lines. They will pull up the tour guides. But it's great to have those people mixed in with those that potentially do not know it or any of Tolkien's stories back to back. So I think the great thing about Hobbiton is, and I always say that to people, is just go and experience it. A bit like the gardens, you say the word Hamilton Gardens and everyone always goes, oh my God, I want to see a botanic garden. It's like it's more than a botanic garden. Yeah. It's around the world in 180 minutes. And they're going, what do you mean? And it's like, wow, it's got a bit of India and a bit of Italian Renaissance. It's got these real gardens where you walk in and you feel like you're in the middle of Italy. And people just go, oh, okay, that sounds really interesting. And now we have the surrealist garden, so you can say things like we have plants that move that are 5 times the size. Yeah. And people are like, wow, that sounds intriguing and curious. So,
and even the Egyptian garden, that's like
we can't wait for the Egyptian garden.
Yeah, that looks choice.
It looks very cool. Yeah. I think we love the surrealist because it's new and we've been watching it grow, literally the ivy grow over those tronites. So I think now to have it open has just got us all really excited because it's a garden we're proud of. The big giant door is definitely going to be the most Instagrammed photo, I think.
I've already seen it on Instagram.
I've seen it so many times, but hey, good on them. It's great because we've always had the Hobbiton door, the round door, and I think this is just our second door into the region. But yeah, back to the question. Look, Kiwis just kind of, we kind of gripe a bit if we have to pay money to go to anything. We like to do free things. However, when we travel internationally, we are prepared to pay to queue to go and climb up the Arc de Triomphe or to queue to go inside Tower of London and go to all these world-class experiences. But if we do it in our own backyard, it's like, nah. But again, it's changing because Kiwis are saying, well, actually, I've done this overseas. I need to explore my own backyard.
Well, as someone who's from Auckland, and I find this is I don't know if it's fully an Auckland thing, but I know a lot of Aucklanders, within my circle, they prefer to go overseas than
stay at home.
Yeah, and do any touristy things in their own country. I mean, I know some Aucklanders that never even left Auckland, so I highly encourage people to check out your own country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, look, it's always hard for New Zealand. Look, it's changed a lot, but, in the old days, which is probably just, literally my lifetime, what I would say is it was, as we've always seen, it was cheaper for us to fly somewhere else, especially across the ditch or to the Pacific, than it was to fly down to Invercargill or Queenstown. So flights have changed. Pricing has changed a lot. It's a lot more of a competitive market, and people can look now and think, actually, it isn't that more expensive to get to Christchurch. I can fly to the West Coast now, or to Blenheim. So I think for North Islanders, it's made the South Island a lot more easier to get to. And the same for South. Look, I think Aucklanders, they still drive here. They love coming here. They might not want to say they've had a holiday in Waikato, but as soon as they cross the Bombay Hills, you're in our hands.
Well, a lot of Aucklanders are moving here anyway, so.
Well, that's right. And and again, visiting friends and family, a huge part of our market. People love to come here. They come for birthdays. They come to catch up with friends and family, and they stay with us. So they might not be staying at the Novotel or the Distinction, but they're definitely coming to the city. We're taking them out. They're spending money at Mr. Pickles. They're having a great time at Banh Mi. They're drinking cocktails at Wonder Horse at night. They're coming to see an event like the Sevens. So they're actually spending in our region. And again, it doesn't matter whether they're not staying in our hotels. If we can offer a great visitor experience as well and showcase the place we've chosen to live, then that builds pride as well. And they think, wow, this is pretty cool, because Reece says Hamilton's cool. And now I've been there and he's right. It's actually pretty cool.
Vanessa wants me to do that ambassador program.
Fantastic.
Should I do it?
You should do the ambassador program.
So can you elaborate a little bit on what it is? Because she did cover it. So it's some type of promotional thing for the Waikato, isn't it?
Yeah. So we have a visitor strategy that obviously is around lifting the value of tourism. So to lift the value of tourism, it's not just around people making money and getting more visitors here. We have a big grow our local pride part. Again, this is part of the discussion right now, is people want to know a little bit about their region, and once they go and explore our region, like you have with Hobbiton, you become our raving fan of what's in our own backyard. So for us, we have a lot of initiatives. One is the ambassador program. So we've launched it with Hamilton Central Business and the City Council, and we're focusing on Hamilton first. It's a 3-hour training course, we're calling it. It's an interactive workshop. I'm actually your facilitator, so you'll get to hear me again, unfortunately, but it is pretty cool if I do say so myself. And we spend 3 hours talking about the history of Hamilton. Sounds really boring, but we start with history, the first settlers here, Ngāti Waitere, the original hapu that were here, that settled on the banks. We learn about what does Kirikiriroa mean, because Kirikiriroa is actually the natural Māori name for Hamilton. We learn about where the name Hamilton came from. We learn about our initial pioneers that actually shaped our city right through to today. We start to know about what are the cool foodie hotspots in the city. Where should, it's about giving you the skills that if someone stops you on the street, or for most of our frontliners, whether they be housekeeping in a hotel through to a barista at a coffee shop, if someone is a visitor and they go, what is there to do here? Or where do I get good coffee? Or how do I get to Waitomo? I don't have a car. You should be able to actually talk with pride about some of the cool things. And then at the end, they're like, wow, that's really cool. So it actually... people learn stuff. That's what I love about the ambassador program. People who have grown up here their whole lives, right through to the people who are new here. You learn something different about our city. And we tell stories. We tell stories about the characters that helped shape our city. So even though Wellingtonians always love to say we are the home of coffee, I'm sorry, it was Hamilton. And so here's just a little snippet. Bob Harris had a little delicatessen just off Garden Place. He was the first New Zealander to actually take coffee beans, which he actually imported, picked them up at Hamilton Airport, bring them back to his store, and he would roast them. He would roast them, make blends, and then he would package them and actually sell them around New Zealand. And that is what we have is Robert Harris today. And so they took the name Robert Harris Cafe from Bob. Bob was New Zealand's first coffee roaster and blender, so we are actually technically the home of coffee.
I didn't know that.
And we learn lots of cool stories like that about all these people that have been here as well.
So I suppose it's good for the CV as well.
Yeah, it's definitely good for the CBD.
And if you want to get a job in tourism, then it helps, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. And we're getting lots of people that aren't in tourism. It doesn't have to be tourism facing. We get retail, hospitality, waiters are coming along, front of house, parking wardens, city safe staff, librarians, people that are just really interested. People are definitely in the tourism industry, but again, it's the whole lot. It's not just front of house staff. We're getting housekeeping staff coming along. And the reason why I always say housekeeping staff are gold is because if you're checking out of a room or a hotel, the first person or the last person you normally see when you leave a hotel is housekeeping.
Yes.
You're normally walking out there in the hallway, they say good morning, and actually you're interacting. You might ask them, where can I go quickly to park my car? Where can I do this? And so you don't normally go to concierge, or you don't normally go to the front of house for somewhere. It's normally just the people on the street or the people that you first bump into that you ask them questions.
Interesting stuff. You said something at one of the Grow Waikato events, which I found very interesting. So you mentioned that one of the things that Hamilton needs to work on is its nighttime economy. And what do you mean exactly by that?
So we have a lot of things you can do through the day. So if you're a visitor here, look, we're chock-a-block with stuff. Today, let's just look at today. We've got Hamilton Gardens Arts Festival on. There's a number of events going on. You can visit the Hamilton Gardens. You could do Waitomo Caves, Hobbiton, Sanctuary Mountain, go and have high tea at Zeelong Tea Estate. You could go to the Waikato Museum. You could go to Hamilton Zoo and, play with a lemur and feed them. There's so much cool stuff to do during the day that your day is full. But then nighttime comes and a lot of our tourism activities shut down. They're closed at night. So to me, nighttime economy is not just around going out and having a great meal. That's definitely big for us. And we definitely have a big hospitality scene. So F&B, food and beverage and hospitality is a big part of our nighttime economy. But we don't have anything else. You can kind of go to theatres. So some of our theatres are great. There's always a night show on or a play. But outside of that, everything else is shut. So, it would be great to have something that people actually can do at night. We do have, seasonal. You can go bat watching with Waikato Museum and go see some of the natural bats that we actually have, native bats in Hamilton. You can go and explore gullies. You could do lots of stuff. You could have the gardens tours at night. Imagine going to the Surrealist Garden in the dark when it's all uplit and the Tronites covered in fairy lights. I don't know. Nighttime economies are things that actually we have as much success and spend happening during the night as we would during the day.
Right.
And it's not just around hospitality.
So do you talk to the council a bit in regards to this?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We work really closely. So councils fund us as well as the industry. So we're a public-private funded organisation. But we definitely work with councils quite a lot and people like Hamilton Central Business. So, Vanessa obviously has moved into what we call CBD events. We have there's outdoor movies. We've got outdoor cinema coming into Seton Park.
Yeah, I saw that.
So there's heaps of cool nighttime activities that we're actually working with our associations, our operators. Sky City, Novotel, they always want to do some night stuff as well. Feast Waikato, which is part of Waikato Food Inc., is about creating more nighttime food events during the Waikato Festival. So to me, there is lots of people out there doing good stuff. It'll just be good to have that year round.
Yeah, because I find Hamilton CBD at night, unless it's like 11 o'clock at night where all the people are going clubbing and partying.
The younger generation.
Yes, the younger generation. I don't fall into that category anymore. But it's a bit quiet by comparison. One of the things I did find funny is when Vanessa was on, she said, because you know how people say the Hamilton CBD is dead. She's like, she said that sometimes people say, the CBD's dead, but I couldn't find a park.
Yeah,
and
that's
she's
right.
Like, well, which one is it?
I know. And so pretty much our CBD is not dead. And so whether it be day or night, and that is the great thing about it. You try and get a table at Banh Mi or Mr. Pickles any night of the week, and unless you've booked, you're pretty much out of luck unless you're prepared to wait for an hour or so. So again, it's not just parking, it's our hospitality places are humming. And again, it's locals going out, but we also have a big business traveller market. So we work a lot on the conference market too, conference and conventions. We're the fourth largest region for conventions. So that
I find that very interesting, yeah.
So that could be board meetings of 6 people through to conferences of 2,500. So,
and I've heard that we have to... we have to turn some people away because we don't have enough hotel space.
Absolutely. So we're losing conferences and large ones because, again, you would have seen about the New Zealand International Convention Centre fire in Auckland. Absolutely devastating for us as a country. It was going to be our first large international scale. And if we say international, it means these are conferences and conventions that would never have come to New Zealand before because we don't have the facilities to host. Auckland will have all of the hotel accommodation sorted, which is great, but unfortunately we've lost the convention centre. So there were a couple of conventions, international ones, that looked at Hamilton. Claudelands can deliver it, so venue, tick. The convention centre's got the scale, it's got the size, it's got exceptional staff to deliver. We have great catering there. We have great access to the city. Unfortunately, what fails is a lot of the conventions want all of their delegates to stay in the same hotel. So again, Novotel and Ibis are our largest city hotel.
How many people can they hold?
So they're about to go up. I cannot remember off the top of my head. They're about to open 40 new rooms, but it's over 300. So it's still quite significant. I think it might go up to 400. I don't quote me on that, but they are increasing in size, which is great.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, we've got a lot of smaller hotels that probably have 30 to 65 rooms. Looks all good, but people really want another hotel. That's what the convention market's asking for. The event market's asking for that. You know, for many of you who potentially may have had visitors who all of a sudden ended up on your couch during the Sevens, during cricket, it's because our city was full, our hotels were full. We had back-to-back events, and all our hotels were pretty much busy, as well as the motel sector. So what we do need is definitely, I would love 2 new hotels, but look, I will take one. One would still be a game changer for us.
Because I think Tainui want to build another hotel.
Oh, well, you can find out more about that.
Yeah,
That would be
I
fantastic.
did read it somewhere, so don't quote me on that. But I'll ask Chris when he comes on. But
No,
yeah.
that's great. And look, in Tainui and the City Council invested in establishing our first hotels in the city. So I think for them, look, once conditions are right and the numbers are there for them, and for any operator, then pretty much it'll be the first mover now. So whoever will develop the first new big, large scale quality CBD hotel.
So with these big conventions, or people that come here usually for business, what are the average numbers usually? Do you know?
Average numbers of the size?
Of the people coming here?
So it varies. Again, Claudelands particularly is our main city venue. Mystery Creek is another big conference venue for us in the region, right through to places like the Velodrome, Distinction Hotel if you want residential. But look, the average size, Claudelands is probably busy year round. I know people sometimes have talked about, Claudelands is just the white elephant, it sits there empty. It might, people kind of, again, a bit like you're not prepared to pay, people kind of judge the success of an event centre or an arena based on, we must have Adele and Elton John and Red Hot Chili Peppers. People expect that we must always fill it with commercial acts or concerts to make it a successful convention centre. But what makes the money and what actually keeps that place humming year round is meetings and conventions, exhibitions, trade shows. I would say...
I don't think the public are aware of that, though.
No, and you don't see it because it's inside the convention centre.
Well, there's this big debate over the Claudelands Event Centre. Should we keep it? Should we sell it? And councillors and all that argue over it. So I find that interesting. It's a valid point that you make, actually.
Look, conventions are a big part of our city. And again, any day of the week, I would say their place is full. Whether it be the arena, we're setting up for a 600-seated awards dinner. Heafy rooms, which are the biggest conference rooms there, they're pretty much full all the time with conferences. Look, we had we host a number of convention buyers that are in the city. We had a team of 8 this week that were here for 2 days. They are looking at bringing a conference of 800 people next year into the city. Most people wouldn't even know it happens until it impacts them, which will be traffic around Claudelands if they're driving. The buses that'll be shuttling people between the hotels will be full, and then you can't even get in potentially to Gothenburg because a lot of the people are actually out and about. They'll come pre and post a conference, they'll stay on, and they love to shop. So again, our business travellers are keeping our CBD and our city pumping as well, which is great. So it's more than just the backpackers or the leisure travellers.
So so this is something just occurred to me. If we do not have enough space in terms of hotel space for, say, business people, how do we cope then when we have something like Fieldays on?
So the region is full. Airbnbs. Airbnbs, busing. One of the big corporates, farming corporates actually is busing people, their staff every day over from Tauranga because we don't have the accommodation stock. Pretty much everything is full. Everything's pre-booked. And I always find it hard because some poor travellers who have no idea what Fieldays are, rock into our city, go to the eyesight and go, hey, I can't get accommodation. Can you help me? 99.9% of the time, the wonderful eyesight staff will find them accommodation somewhere because they're normally some of the businesses or B&Bs that aren't listed, whether it be online, they will find them accommodation, which is great. So they're really helpful like that. But look, our region is pretty full during Fieldays. It's chock-a-block. But again, on the flip side, we're really lucky. Every other part of New Zealand is looking at us going, I wish we had Fieldays. It's smack bang in the middle of winter, when normally we have no visitors here. It goes for over a week. People are here, exhibitors and sales staff are setting up, and then we also have pack down, and then we get huge international businesses coming here from around the world coming to do business at Fieldays. So
I went for the first time last year. I was like, man, I want to check this out, and it's pretty overwhelming how big it is. Yeah.
It is. It's overwhelming.
And some of the money that would get spent too. I mean, some of that stuff is not cheap.
No, it's huge economic impact for the region.
I bet it is.
It's actually huge nationally. It contributes to national GDP. That's the size of pretty much our field.
Is there a surge in people that arrive, I suppose, from domestic flights into Hamilton? I suppose it's good that the Mystery Creek is right next to the airport.
That does help. Yeah, look, definitely. Our flights from Christchurch are pretty much full, and they do put on extra services here in New Zealand if required. Wellington is always busy as well, but we get a big drive market. Again, you've talked about it before. This Upper North Island has 50% of New Zealand's population, so many people drive. They'll drive sometimes from Wellington, but they'll drive from Northland, top of the north, from Taranaki, Bay of Plenty, all into the region as well. So
are you there every single field days?
I don't go there now to do any sort of selling, which is good. Again, it's a farming market, but we do participate in field days with campaigns. We have like a field nights campaign. So again, great, a bit like we talked about the nighttime economy. Go do some great stuff during the day at field days, do business, but here's some great experiences, whether it be doing a walk in Mangatotiri for a Kiwi release, through to having a night experience in one of our hospo entertainment precincts. Go and do some night activities too, so field nights. So we do work with them to market the region to do experiences after hours as well, which is great.
So where would you like to see the region in, say, the next 10, 20 years?
The region next 10, 20 years, better some great rail connectivity, and I think driven by leisure. So I think commuters will be big. We always want to travel to Auckland, but I personally would love to go up to Auckland. If I had a concert Friday night, I'd want to go up at lunchtime. I don't want to do a commuter rail service, and potentially we won't have rail network going up Friday night. So again, a more scheduled and efficient rail service across our region. So look, Hamilton, great, but it'd be great to connect Te Awamutu, Te Kuiti, Aotearoa, Cambridge, and then eventually across to Tauranga and Rotorua. I'd love to see the Expressway extended. I think, look, it's great that everyone, people have this roads versus rail debate. But again,
I've had both Labour and National MPs on here, and it's very interesting hearing the debate between both sides.
Yeah, and I believe in rail. I always believe in rail, but to me, road is we need an expressway extension definitely to Piariri, and it's only for safety.
It's a dangerous road.
And
it's
the good
very,
thing
very
is
dangerous.
we have seen the benefits already of the expressway through Cambridge. I think they announced it's been open 2 years or 3 years, and there's not been one fatality on that piece of highway, and it's doing 110. But it shows that a safely designed road can actually save lives. And so for me, that is the next dangerous stretch of highway for us, is to Piariri and that whole intersection. Look, my dream would be that we'd even have an expressway all the way to Tauranga, better connectivity. So I think, look, rail will be important for us because obviously from a logistics, manufacturing perspective, having Hamilton and better connection to Tauranga, but definitely through rail and also road would be great. So that would be my dream. 2 new hotels in the city. I'd be love to have that open.
I'll tell Chris that.
Yeah, we'll be celebrating that. Large scale, at least 200 to 300 rooms each, with potentially conference facilities in there, and maybe a couple of, maybe 4 or 5 rooftop bars. Hamilton, for those of you who live here, if you get the chance to go up high and see our city, you're blown away.
I was in the KPMG building sometime last year, like up the top floor. And
it's pretty incredible.
I didn't realise how green Hamilton is.
I know, and I love that. We are a green city. I'm sorry.
A lot of greenery.
We're actually more than the Garden City. Christchurch people will actually, they would literally keel over in horror at me saying that. But I always say to my Christchurch friends, we are the Garden City of the North. Our river is far bigger than the Avon. We have beautiful tree-lined river. Plus we have the most green city. We've got beautiful old trees that have been here. We've got a gully system. We've got big parks. We've got a western green belt. It is really green. So for more people to actually be up high, see our city, see the river from up high, and also enjoy some great DJ music or some live bands and have some drinks, or maybe even have a rooftop pool would be fantastic for the city.
Well, we don't really have that many tall buildings here.
No. Well, and we do. Well, they're office buildings.
And some of them are really old,
That's right.
I'd like to see a more modern type of tall building.
Oh, well, that would be nice.
It would be
nice.
I
do love our heritage buildings, and I think that we see Matt Stark's doing a great job of taking some of our buildings and making them beautiful.
I did, because I have had a couple of councillors on here, and they've said that part of the reason Hamilton doesn't really have any tall buildings, or many of them, is because Hamilton is fertile land, so it's a bit harder to build high because it's more costly, because you have to find a hard
solid base.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And especially along the river, the river banks, they're not built on rock, unlike other rivers around the world.
No.
So for us, it's definitely about building things away from the river if we're to do more high rise. But it definitely, for us to be able to be on the river and turn the city around, look, I would love to see, again, more things in the river, like Victoria on the river, not just pocket parks, but literally a promenade that goes pretty much from maybe North Victoria Street, goes right along our river down to Ferry Bank. That would be fantastic, an upper and lower promenade. Look, the regional theatre will be open. I want to see that humming. It's going to really change the face of South Victoria Street. I'd love to see the Waikato Museum obviously grow. It's also our art gallery, so I'd love to see a better connection to Victoria Street and actually seeing that whole area becoming our cultural precinct as well. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, if you think of cities like Brisbane and Melbourne,
yes, definitely.
They have rivers going through their city.
They do.
Yeah.
The other thing, the only thing I say, and people always find that hard, is that those cities are also at river level. So if you guys know, our Waikato River actually is like a canyon when it goes through our city. So as we have to look down on the river, that we're not actually at eye level. So unless we physically get down
Valid
to
point.
it,
Yes.
Ferry Bank is our only place really. Wellington Street Beach, at the back of Hamilton Gardens, where we're actually at eye level with the river. The rest of us, or the rest of the city, is actually up. So again, it's quite hard to engage with the river when you've got, a few cliffs and canyons that you're going to have to try and master to get down to the river.
Less chance of flooding, though. I suppose that's one of the pros.
Absolutely. Ferry transport. Love to see regular river transport. I think that would be a great option. The growth of Te Awa Lakes, that would be fantastic if that goes ahead. That would be a great connection, a new town for us. And be able to engage and improve Ngaruawahia. Ngaruawahia and Taupiri are beautiful towns, and they've got amazing stories to tell around.
Well, there's a negative stigma against them, isn't there? Well, Ngaruawahia, I went and did the the Hakerematas.
Oh, right, great.
Yeah, that's a good way to test out how fit you are. Seriously,
absolutely. It's one of our most popular short walks, mainly for locals.
I imagine,
and it's great. And now we've got Breaking Bread out there, which is a new cafe, again generated by the visitor numbers. We've had the Te Awa cycle ride extension go all the way to the Hacks, which is great. Again, Te Awa River Ride, I'd love to see that extended all the way to Port Waikato, so you could actually cycle the Great River and then connecting. You'll see the Te Awa River Ride's been extended to Cambridge. I'd love to see that go all the way down to Horahora, when they could then connect with the Waikato River Trail. So it actually becomes a river that you can actually cycle, walk, or do any sort of travel activity along it. That would be another dream of mine as well. Trams. I'd love to see trams in our city. Again, it's a city that's never had trams, but when you look at the growth of our city, we're actually quite a nicely shaped round city. So technically trams that actually go out and about, or even having an inner city tram that actually connects to Claudelands would be fantastic, across the river and Hamilton East. And out to Frankton, so just have a little inner city loop tram. That would be pretty cool. And be able to swim in Hamilton Lake. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Couldn't you could swim in Hamilton Lake back in the 1800s,
correct.
I think. Yeah.
You could. But there's lots of issues with Hamilton Lake now. But again, there is new technology that's coming through that can actually eventually, it might be a bit costly, so that's probably why we haven't looked at it yet, but to improve the well-being and the health of the lake. And if that happens, imagine if we could just take your families or yourself and actually go for a swim in the lake. And also some man-made beaches along the river that we can actually swim safely on our river will be great too.
Because I know some people swim in the river, but I've actually heard that it's not supposed to be swimmable.
Oh, no, it's definitely swimmable.
It is swimmable?
We have a lot of people swimming. You go along the river right now, this afternoon, and pretty much there'll be thousands of people swimming in our river.
Because I heard it was, obviously the Waikato River, as it gets closer to Ngaruawahia, it starts becoming more polluted.
I definitely think where it meets the Waipa River, but a lot of that is actually natural rather than actually waste going into the river. It does discolour, but that's again because the Waipa and the upper reaches of the Waipa, obviously, they have a lot of sediment they float down it. But look, the Waikato River is cleaner than what it ever has been.
Okay, all right.
And
that's good to know.
And it's only getting better, but yes, no, you can definitely swim in our river.
I'll keep that in mind.
Great.
One last question before you go. In terms of Hobbiton, because it just came to me, is last time I went there, they were building something there. I don't know if it was like a bed and breakfast or what was it.
Is
It was
that behind Shire's Rest?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
Yes, so it's the new Hobbiton headquarters. So it's like Hobbiton House. So it's for all the staff. So Hobbiton has grown and grown over years. The original farmhouse is still there. That was actually holding about 8 staff members. And then the rest of the staff are in portacoms and sheds all over the property.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what they were building was literally the new home for Hobbiton and all their staff, whether it be the guides, they'll actually have a proper place where they can actually shower, they're able to feed their staff through a proper staff room, and all their office-based staff who do all the marketing and the health and safety.
Oh, so
and the
that's
gardeners,
what it is.
they all get a new base. So that's what that is. That's
I
what's
thought it was like a hotel or something that they were building there.
Yeah, no, it's only, I think it's 2 stories, maybe 2.5 with a mezzanine floor, but it's to actually house all the Hobbiton staff. So to me, it's the coming of age for Hobbiton because that actually makes them an official company to me. You kind of feel grown up when you've got your own company headquarters.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to Disneyland or you go anywhere around the world and you go to their headquarters, and it's a place where everyone is. For Hobbiton, they've done exceptionally well. They've spent more of the money and the capital investment on the visitor experience, and now it's their time to actually have their own headquarters. So that's what that building is.
I would imagine that Richard would have plans for expansion with Hobbiton. I imagine he'd have some ideas of what he wants to do. Has he shared them with you?
No, not really. I think look, Russell is an ideas man. He comes up with stuff all the time.
Sorry, not Richard.
That's all right. And he, to me, look, they have invested. They always improve the experience. There is always stuff going on at Hobbiton, through to whether it be sealing some of the roads for the buses, through to building a second retail option, through to adding Green Dragon Inn, through to Shire's Rest, through to having a little pop-up bar there in summer, through to having an eyesight there. They're always reinvesting in the product, because as we all know, you can't just sit on your hands.
No.
Go, that's my attraction. We'll just keep it the way it is. It always needs to keep evolving.
That's right.
Hobbiton do really, really well at doing that.
Have you met Peter Jackson?
No, I've never personally met Peter Jackson. Been in the same room as him, as most of us have, but we've never actually got to press the flesh and have a bit of a joke with him.
That's unfortunate. In terms of this just occurred to me in regards to the coronavirus and obviously everything that's happening with that. Because I was thinking about this before you actually came in, and I was like, man, how would you still do all the marketing and promote it? Because obviously China is one of our biggest tourist expats here. So in terms of how you
rejig it.
Yeah, rejig the marketing. And you did say domestic was a big part of it, and obviously I suppose it's something you're keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's something that's going to be resolved
It's not
anytime soon.
No, look, I think most New Zealanders in the world need to prepare themselves for at least a whole year of coronavirus. I would say we need to plan for until June next year, whether you be a business or an operator. That's probably the deadline or the game plan right now. How we've adjusted our market. So China is our 4th largest market.
I thought it was our 2nd.
No. So number 1 is Australia. Number 2
obviously.
is UK, Europe. And number 3 is
really?
the Americas, USA and Canada. And then China comes in as 4th. So for us, look,
Interesting.
It's probably similar though to Rotorua. Look, Rotorua, China is their 4th largest market as well, but they are more heavily impacted than we are. And the reason why is there's a lot of businesses that have been built for China group travel based in Rotorua, whether it be group dining, whether it be group transportation, hotels and motels that only deal in the China group travel market. So for them, they are far more heavily impacted right now than we are. But look, Hamilton and Waikato, we definitely are impacted by coronavirus. We, our big operators as well, they get a lot of group China travel coming through, so they're feeling it. Right through to some of our hotels who literally might have a small bus tour normally once a week of 8 passengers that would stay at their hotel before they fly to Christchurch. They're impacted too. So it's starting to bite. But again, there are other sectors in New Zealand that are far more heavily impacted. I think the figure I heard yesterday was 17% of the tourism sector is impacted right now by coronavirus or the loss of business out of China. The logging and the forestry industry right now, we're up to 70% of impact. So these are forestry companies closing down, letting go of forestry gangs.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of businesses are closing. And
it's really sad.
Yeah,
I think, look, the whole country actually is going to be impacted by coronavirus. Some of the sectors that initially work in China are exporters. We are impacted immediately, but it's going to start to bite throughout the rest of the country as well. So, look, how we rejig things. Again, fortunately for us, we do work in a range of markets. We don't have all our eggs in one basket for international.
Good. Do you ever plan for these type of events though? like some type of catastrophic event, or do you have any safeguards in place for worst case scenarios?
Yeah, so look, it's happened quite a lot, unfortunately, for New Zealand. We have had, again, the terror attack. When the terror attack in Christchurch happened, we obviously lose a lot of what we call our safe markets. So Japan traditionally only travel to places that are what they deem as safe. So we had obviously a lot of countries relook at their travel when obviously we had the terror attack in Christchurch, that we weren't such a welcoming country anymore. For a country that celebrates its diversity and gender equality, all of a sudden we were killing people, which again just sent ripples around the world. So it kind of changed our safe destination travel status around the world. Then we had Whakaari White Island, which was a most terrible tragedy. But again, people might think, well, how does that impact us? Well, what happens is people decide, it doesn't seem too safe. New Zealand have a lot of earthquakes. They now have obviously volcanic eruptions, even though they knew we are a live volcanic field. People do start to question whether, again, are we now not safe based on our natural disaster status? Because again, they might see us as quite a risky country. We call ourselves the Shaky Isles. We've grown up with it. But again, for others who don't come from those sorts of countries and have never been exposed to natural disasters, they do start to question, is it a safe place to go?
So how do you push through that?
How do we push through that? As we talk about the other things that we do have, and the other types of activities that we have here are above the ground, non-geothermal sometimes. Hamilton is meant to be what we call a seismic haven, but look, the whole country has earthquake fault lines everywhere. But at the Touchwood, as a region, we do have the odd little tremor, but we aren't in the epicenter of some of the big trench fault lines.
I think that's why some of the businesses are moving here, apparently. According to Vanessa, one reason, not all.
That's right. That is one reason, definitely. And also the youngest population, that's another great thing for us as well.
This is the thing that I don't think a lot of people know, because I only found this out recently as well, that I think Hamilton has like the highest, or one of the highest populations per capita in terms of youth.
Correct. So we are the youngest by median age, I think, which is around 32 to 33 of young people. I mean, that people might think, well, that's not young, but actually that's the median. So it's all the others below and above. So we do have this big concentration of young New Zealanders deciding to start their life here, to study here, and to stay and actually progress their career or move here for careers. So the talent pool is pretty educated, but the great thing, it's also youthful. So that means that we're a bit more innovative, and we have entrepreneurial spirit, and we're prepared to push the barrows sometimes rather than just have status quo. So it's a really attractive place. And we're also the Silatron Valley right now. We've outstripped Wellington and Auckland for the last 2 years in the number of IT jobs and companies that are based compared to anywhere else in New Zealand.
Ancillary?
Exactly. Ancillary, Company X, IT Partners, the list goes on. There are so many amazing companies here, whether they be doing global animation, creating mobile apps, or building some of the best websites in the world. A lot of that work's happening here in the Waikato, which may lead to your next guest.
Possibly, yes. Well, hey, this has been great. I might wrap up there. Now, if anyone wants to check out any of the tourist attractions in the Waikato and stuff, where's the best place for them to go?
So, of course, we are on every social media channel under the sun, including Weibo and WeChat. But let's just start with the ones for the New Zealand market. Obviously, our website is waikatonz.com, C-O-M. So that's literally got everything on there. You can subscribe to newsletters and updates. And then from there, there's also links to all our social media channels. We are on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, and of course we're also on all the other China travel websites as well. So again, search for Hamilton Waikato on Twitter, on Instagram. We are Waikato New Zealand, and I can't remember all the others, but look, Hamilton and Waikato
I'll post
Tourism.
links in the descriptions and everything.
That would be fantastic.
And there's some great pictures of Jason on there too.
Oh goodness, but there's definitely pictures of other great things you can do. And look, and Facebook's a big one for us. One of our most popular posts we have is every Wednesday. We do Wednesday Walk, where we promote a free walk that people might not have done in our region, and it's huge. It gets huge engagement because it's free. People like to challenge their mates. Oh, look at this, let's do this walk now, or 1,000 steps to do this, and free family activities too. So definitely check us out.
Cool. Well, that's the show, guys. Make sure you share, like, and subscribe. And until next time, stay safe.
Ka kite anō.